Hello, both sides of the conversation family. We welcome you to this virtual space crafted especially for you. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm both sides of the conversation's marketing director and graphics design specialist. I want to take some time to ground us all as a community into this space we are about to open up in, so let's go through our community standards. Both sides of the conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation, so we ask that you all be respectful of that. We also ask that you be respectful of each panelist, host, and participant. We do encourage healthy debates and conversations. Don't personalize anything with anyone. This includes name-calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming. This will not be allowed or tolerated. Your perspective is yours. It is not a prescription. You do not have to agree, but show respect. These community standards apply to all of our live shows and any virtual spaces that we hold on social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We want to make sure that we are caring for each other as a community. This is our priority in all of our endeavors as both sides of the conversation. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's show and continue to stay in touch with us via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or all of them. All right, thank you for listening and see you soon.
Welcome, everybody, to Both Sides of the Conversation. I'm John Henry, Executive Director of Both Sides of the Conversation. Today is our Sunday conversation. Today, we are talking about domestic violence and how that is impacting our community. We have some survivors of domestic violence, and this should be a great conversation today. So just want to let everybody know as we get started, should be a great conversation. Please go to our YouTube, use our live chat function if you'd like to ask questions or send resources or information to any of our panelists or guests today. Use the live chat function on YouTube. With that being said, just want to say happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there. What a beautiful day here in the Bay Area and across the Bay and across the country. Has been pretty good weather out there. So Mother Nature has done her part to make sure that our mothers are highlighted and celebrated with great weather. So just wanted to give another shout out to them and just making sure everybody's enjoying themselves. I know a lot of people are in church, eating dinner and different things like that, and they'll be catching up to the conversation at different points in time. But today is going to be a powerful conversation. So just want to thank all the mothers for all that you all do for our community, our children. You all are pillars of our community, holding us together. So just want to thank all of you mothers out there. And then we're going to go ahead and jump into our community announcements. I know we have a few of them that I want to get through real quick before we get started today. One, I want to thank all of our community partners for stepping up, doing the things that they've been doing to help impact our community. So I want to give a big shout out to YCD, the executive director over there, Brother DJ, Black to the Future, Crystal over there doing her thing to help support community, Collective Impact, Uncle Stank over there, making sure that our community has the things that they need, and supporting from behind the scenes as well. And then just want to give a big shout out to Miss Diane and Mr. Shell over there at 100% College Prep for all that they're doing for our community, for our young people. They are doing a phenomenal job, and they are part of making sure that our community stays connected as well. With that being said, I know a lot of people see me out there this weekend. There was a number of community events that I was out. I want to thank our Both Sides of the Conversation team for all the work they've been doing behind the scenes to help push this platform forward, and a lot of things that's happening behind the scene, and making sure that we got the things that we needed to bless our community. We was able to bring roses out to all of our moms to show our appreciation and love to the mothers from both sides of the conversation. So I want to thank our team for making sure that our mothers are recognized and that we're doing our part as part of the community to make sure that our community is united and feel supported and loved by both sides of the conversation. So with that being said, the event number one, I want to give a huge shout out to the executive director, to Sean Parker, and to Miss Gigi over at the Bayview YMCA. They did a phenomenal phenomenal job of putting together the Mother Day event for the mothers yesterday, giving them roses and food and seeds, candies, and just giving them a lot of blessings of love. So I want to thank them for their work and their efforts putting together that event yesterday to make sure that our mothers in our community was loved and they had a nice gift and roses to be appreciated for Mother's Day. So I want to thank the Baby YMCA for all they do. And Miss Gigi, she's been on the boots on the ground for years and years and years. And we just want to acknowledge her because she's always thinking about community, our mothers, fathers, and our young people of the community. So just want to give them a huge shout out, and we'll be working with them in the future as well. So just want to thank them. And then event number 2 is very important event to me as well, because I know growing up where we all grow up, there's a lot of violence and things. I want to give a shout out to Miss Maika Pinkston from the Heart. Her organization put together a Mother's Day event to celebrate the mothers who lost their kids to gun violence and violence in our community, and also just to acknowledge the mothers in general. What a phenomenal event. We was in District 10. The weather held up yesterday. It got a little windy in the evening, but for the most part of the day, it was nice. It was warm. It was sunny. They had the bands out there. We had the young people out there. The food was great. We had flowers and gifts, and she had the organic food out there, and they had all the Black author books. Phenomenal. So just wanted to thank her for sticking together, keeping the mothers in the community connected, and making sure that they feel loved and appreciated. And we need to also remember that these mothers who lose their kids, they need this love and support all the time. I know today's Mother's Day, but we need to share this community love all year long, especially to our mothers who lose their children to violence, because a lot of times from what I gathered with information, talking to some of the mothers yesterday, they feel like, after the funeral and after some of the things die down, a lot of time the communities are not coming back around and supporting them, and they need support all the time. So we want to keep those mothers who lose their children in our prayers and everything. And then lastly, I just want to say shout out to Kirk Grimes from API being out there supporting Uncle Damien, Us for Us, coming out with the young people, supporting the event as well. And then I want to give a huge shout out to Dr. Scott. She came out yesterday, phenomenal sister, just talking about a lot of the things that we need to do to impact our community. And I'm loving some of the things that she's talking about. And we got some things we're going to be working with to help educate our young people in the community about Black history, about some of the things that we need to be teaching our young people, especially as we start going into creating these Saturday school hubs and things of that nature. So I'm looking forward to working with her. Shout out to her. Just nice to see her out there. And then shout out to all of the amazing elders of the community, women of wisdom. I was able to have some phenomenal conversations with our women from the community yesterday. Gave me a lot of information, and Dr. Scott was one of them. And then I also just want to say, shout out to Diane at 100%. Had some phenomenal conversations with her as well about planning and thinking about how to impact our kids with education and all the things that they're doing. And these type of dialogues and these think tanks have to happen with all communities. And I just appreciate them trying to work together with all of the communities and making sure that our young people are empowered, engaged, and as well as our elders. And there's some things that we're going to do to help bless the community here at Both Sides of the Conversation. Now, we are on a mission to change the narrative in our community, and we're going to hear these change and these narrative shifts through our voices, and we're going to keep pumping that through. And then lastly, before we go, just want to give a couple of updates too for community, especially here in California, Bay Area, because I think a lot of times things are happening. I know people are getting vaccinated. We still have to remember we are still in a pandemic. Please remember to social distance, wear your mask, and try to respect people's space. I know a lot of people are getting fully vaccinated and things of that nature, but this pandemic is still real. People are still testing positive, and I just need community to remember we still need to keep our masks on and properly social distance. And I know we're lifting up some of the restrictions, but until we get there, please respect people and respect the space. Also, with that being said, here in the Bay Area and across California, the red flag warning is up. As everybody know, I've been putting out these announcements. The fire season is approaching us fast. Here in California, we have been hit with a drought, and the bushes, the forest is dry. So please be mindful while people are out today barbecuing for Mother's Day and things of that nature. Please be careful because the grounds and the brush is real dry, and we don't want to get into these fires that we've been dealing with over the years. And with that being said, also, we have went into the emergency drought phase. Please, all community, be mindful of your water usage. Please be mindful of your sprinklers in front of your house. We all have to work in solidarity as a community. You guys know how this power grid has been happening, and they've been doing the rolling blackouts for the power. We do not want to be affected with water shutoffs for our community, as we have elders, people with disability. We need our water, and because of the drought, because we had low rainfall and low snow impact this year, our water is being hit hard, and it's at an extreme point. So I just want to remind community, please do your part. Let's work together. Let's be mindful when we're taking showers, running water, and our sprinklers to conserve water so that we don't get into a situation where they start blacking our water out, shutting off our water as we get, to these low levels. So, and it's just not helping with these hot days. I mean, around the East Bay, it's 90, 100 degrees around the East Bay. So just be mindful of that so that everybody is not affected. We have to be thinking about everybody, and it takes all of us collectively to get through this. So this drought has really impacted us. So with that being said, I'm going to shut up now. I've said enough. But thank you all. We're going to go ahead and start introducing today's guest. I'm going to bring up Mr. Shell, and we're going to start bringing up our guest to have today's conversation about domestic violence.
Thank you, John. Our first guest is Jamie Wright. She is a domestic violence early trauma survivor and a mother. She is a speaker, activist, and advocate. She motivates and encourages, empowers others to overcome and transform trauma and to love, self-love, healing, and happiness. She is an author to 2 upcoming books, Fighting the Purpose Through Pain and The Power of Overcoming Shame and Learning to Love Yourself. Jamie is a decorated civilian operative and received many commendations during her tour of Afghanistan. That included a Joint Civilian Service Commendation, a NATO Medal of Service Award, and an Expeditious Medal for Global War on Terrorism. She is a sought-after guest panelist and has appeared locally on the national stage and abroad. She was on 60 Minutes, The Doctors, BBC News, various podcasts, and news channels. Currently, she supports and serves on 2 boards of directors for the Houston area, the Women's Center and Unsilent Voices, 2 nonprofit organizations that serve people impacted by all forms of domestic violence. Currently, she's residing in Texas and enjoying her newfound freedom in life. Welcome to the show.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. John, I just first, before I say anything, brother, thank you for using your platform to bring awareness to a topic and an issue that's impacted our community for far too long. So I don't have much to say other than I'm grateful. I'm honored to be here. Thank you for that introduction, sis. I'm humbled by it. I'm grateful. And yeah, just looking forward to having an authentic conversation that hopefully brings awareness and sparks the conversation to change the narrative so we can get to resolution.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next guest is Kathy Kadori Marshall. She is the founder of Kadori Helping Hands, Kadori Brand, and Dougie's Kids Incorporated. Kadori is a mother of 5, and she is a registered nurse. She spends a tremendous amount of time giving back to her community. She is dedicated to helping and ensuring the well-being of children and families across America. Kadori has a powerful new inspirational book for women, which has recently released in November 2020, entitled Ladies, Love Yourself First, That Happiness. Kadori plans on having a 10-city book tour in 2021. Welcome to the show, Kadori.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, John, for the platform. And thank you for inviting me, Jamie. I'm very happy to be here, very blessed. I am a mother of 5. I like to say happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And I look forward to a great conversation.
Thank you.
Our next guest is a renowned guest in San Francisco, Duane Swan. He is a San Francisco resident, Omega Boys Club alumni, and a Bayview Hunters Point figure. He is the founder of a mental health organization called The Gems that provides self-wellness for families support foundation. Welcome back to the show, Duane.
You got to unmute yourself. You got to unmute yourself.
Thank you for having me on the show. I'm blessed to be on the panel. Powerful, Black, beautiful women. Happy Mother's Day to both of you guys. And it's a blessing to be back on here. You guys have a powerful platform. I appreciate it. I don't know if I compete with them, though. Hey, them some strong sisters right there.
All right, thank you. So with that, thank you, Tashelle. So with that being said, we're going to jump in to today's conversation. But I did want to start off with a couple of questions that I just want to give to the mothers that's on here. The community. One of the questions that we kept asking to the mothers because changing the narrative is also understanding motherhood. What does it look like? So the first question today is, what is motherly love? How do you show it to your children in the community? So who? Either one of you can start first.
Motherly love to me is support, right? Like supporting your children, even in the face of them making their own decisions. And in the community specifically, it looks like village for me. Because John, anybody that knows me know I had my first daughter when I was 14, and so it was only by the grace of God and the village of people around me that both my girls are just super solid young ladies. My oldest is in dental school. My youngest is figuring her way and exploring, life, and just resilient and just awesome young lady. So yeah, it looks like support in village, especially in the African American community.
True. Kathy, you want to jump in?
Yes, I look at just support as well. Listening to your children, because we all have a purpose in life, and I always told my children that their purpose, God gave it to them. So I just try to encourage them. They're all adults to live their life to the fullest potential and to live whatever their purpose is. So I'm always there as a listening ear and just offering advice and support.
All right, perfect. So with that being said, the first question that's related to the domestic violence in our community, what role does our culture play in domestic violence? I just want to get that out as the first question. And then I just want to read off a couple of statistics that I'll put up there on the screen as we have Jamie go ahead and open up some of the research that we found that impacts us when it comes to domestic violence. Just wanted to get community this information so they understand how serious and how effective these type of situations are happening every day. So I'm gonna give a couple of quick research information, and then I'm gonna go ahead and turn over to you, Jamie, to get started. This is from a research they came up with. There on a typical day, local domestic violence hotlines receive about 19,159 calls, approximately 13 calls every minute. So as you guys can see, that this is a problem. I mean, if our local law enforcement and our 911 emergency centers are being hit with 13 calls every minute for domestic violence, it's a problem. We definitely need to have this conversation to move that forward. One of the other research data that came up was 1 in 3 women have experienced domestic violence or are intimidated by a partner of violence. That was a statistic that came up that I thought was very interesting as well. And then another statistic that came up was 31% of Black women have experienced domestic violence related impacts and missed at least one day of work or school because of domestic violence related issues. And then 53% of Black women has experienced physical aggression by an intimate partner in their lifetime. So, I mean, this is like half of our women have experienced some kind of aggression of domestic violence. So, very serious topic. Um, very touching. And, one of the things that I also want to say before I turn over to you, Jamie, is I talked to a lot of the moms yesterday. And when they heard that this conversation was coming up, I mean, the amount of women have said they were survivors of domestic violence or their experience was just amazing, right? I'm talking about 45 to 75 women talked about their experience with domestic violence. And this is a conversation that we have to have because this is something that we have to kill in our community. And also, I received text messages and emails from other community people that knew about this topic. It was saying that our LGBTQ plus community also deals with domestic violence. It's a big problem in their community. The Asian community, I've reached out to some people, reached out to me, said, I'm glad you're talking about it. It is a big problem, domestic violence in the Asian culture, as well as in our Latin culture as well. And a lot of those people was happy that we're going to be talking about this and they'll be watching. But this is a serious issue. This is a serious topic. I know it's going to be touching and triggering for some people today listening. I know it's Mother's Day. But again, these conversations have to happen. We can't pick and choose when we're going to have these conversations on what days. We need to have these difficult conversations and hear both sides of the conversation. That's our job, to have the taboo and the stigma conversation that typically doesn't happen in our community. And we have to silence this violence, and we have to open up. And I'm just happy to have you sisters and Dewan on here to open up about experiences and talking about how has it impacted you in your life, so that others out there who may be silenced and dealing with this can get some resources and some support and some encouragement to step up and speak out about domestic violence. And I know there's a big movement nationally, and I know October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we're just going to keep these conversations. We just have to keep pushing through until we get there. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and Jamie, have you open up and talk to your story and things that you're doing, and then we'll just start opening up to everybody. But I wanted to give you the lead to go ahead and talk about, why you got into it and some of your experiences and what you went through as a survivor.
Yeah, thank you, John, again. And thank you for having this conversation, because this is a conversation, like you said, that needs to be had every day, not just in October when that's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, but every day. So a little bit about my story. I first, became exposed to domestic violence as a little girl. And the first memory I have is around the age of 4, literally hearing my mom scream out for help as she was being abused by her partner, my stepfather. And so fast forward, I understand now, only after being a survivor of domestic violence as a woman, and in the face of COVID last year in April of 2020, having to go to a homeless shelter here in the Houston area. It's called the Houston Area Women's Center. Did I start to understand, John, like, I was conditioned for an abusive relationship. My truth was that a lot of who I was thought that was love, because that's what I seen growing up. So again, I honor you, because unless and until we have the conversation, will anything change? I mean, if we're not having the conversation, we set ourselves up to just kind of, like you said, it's a taboo, it's cliche, and people are dying. People are walking around dead, meaning that they're not living their God-given purpose and the life that they desire or deserve, because they experience abuse. And oh, by the way, domestic violence is just not physical abuse. It can be emotional abuse. It's oftentimes, like my therapists have shared with me, the emotional and mental abuse oftentimes might be worse, because those are abuses, quote unquote, in the domestic violence arena that oftentimes aren't addressed, because we don't even really know, we meaning survivors of domestic violence, that is know that it's happening. So that's a little bit about my story. Like I said, I was essentially homeless as a result of domestic violence last year, and now I'm just on this intentional mission, John, to open up the conversation so that we can get up under the root of domestic violence, which now I know it's the power and control part of it, so that we can eradicate it one day. And now, as you know, John, I have the honor of sitting on, like Sis said in my bio, I have the honor of sitting on the board of directors for the very shelter that I had to seek safety and a place to stay last year for almost 3 months. So that's what I'm doing, and that's what brought me there.
Powerful stuff. Miss Kathy, you want to jump in there? You could have the same honors to just talk about your experience. I know as a nurse, you see a lot of it as well, but definitely go ahead and jump in there, and then we'll pass it around, and then we'll just open up the conversation after that.
Yes, absolutely. I do see a lot being a nurse. In fact, part of our oath as a nurse is to try to get the woman or man, most times women, who are abused by themselves, by asking them to go to the restroom, give us a urine sample or something. Because a lot of times by the time they come to the ER, their partner is right there with them. So you can't really talk to them, ask them certain questions. But most women are going to have to come 9 or 10 times before they really get to where they are just sick and tired of it. But my backstory is I was raised in a large family. I did see domestic violence growing up as a child in my childhood. I didn't understand it until recent years that it was embedded in me as well. And those areas of my life were not healed. So I went through domestic violence in 2 marriages. Physical abuse, but a lot of mental abuse as well. And so I left the first marriage, did not take time for myself and really heal and attracted some of those qualities in a second marriage that lasted for 24 years. And that was a lot of mental abuse that I sustained in that marriage. But since then, I've gotten therapy and I'm better now. It's 3 years ago since I've been divorced and out of that. But I'm just on a journey now and a mission to, help spread the word and help uplift women. That's why the title of my book is Ladies Love Yourselves First. That's happiness, because a lot of times women, we seek that approval from men and other people. And we're always looking for somebody to validate us when essentially you need to validate yourself. So if you're raised and you're not taught to love yourself and to put yourself first, you're going to always be seeking something for somebody else. But what we have to understand is that God created each of us individually and unique, and he did not tie you to anybody. So I don't care if you're married or dating, you don't need that person to the point that you can't survive. You can survive. So you may have to change some things in your life, go back to school or do whatever you need to do, but you can make it, because I want to get that ingrained in girls and women, because a lot of people are dying in these relationships, specifically women. You know, men experience domestic violence too, but it's not on nearly the level that it is with women, and how many women are dying every day in those abusive relationships. So they need to know that you don't need to stay in any relationship where you're being physically, mentally harmed, that's breaking your self-esteem down even more, that you can get help, go seek the shelters like where Jamie went, or people that you can confide in and start to rebuild your life from the ground up. That's what I had to do. I had to do that a couple times in my life where I lost everything and had to rebuild myself from the ground up. And now I'm happier than I've ever been, because I don't depend on anybody else for my happiness at all. So that's my story.
Wow, powerful, powerful. Brother Dewan, you want to jump in there and talk about your experience of witnessing domestic violence?
Well, my first experience with domestic violence was from when I was a kid through my mom. I seen my mom go through that, and it kind of like rubbed off on me for a minute because I didn't understand what it was. And it was really like a family secret. I seen my mom get bruised several times, put in the corners, beat up, and stay with a person that wasn't my father, first of all, and I didn't understand it. And as I grew older, it rolled over to me being bruised by him, whooped and get whoopings, and I don't even say whoop. I think it was just abuse because he was abusing me and my mom. So my experience with that, it kind of like more to me when I was growing up. But I had to, like she said, I had to kind of like grow out of that, because that's not who we are. Even though he was doing that to us, and we didn't tell nobody. You know what I'm saying? My family didn't know about it. My mom becoming new scars, they stuff, but it was like we ain't telling nobody. It's just inside the house. So being inside the house with an abuser like that, it also, as a man, that when my father died when I was 4, it's kind of rubs off on you. Not to the point where I knew I was going to be put my hands on him, because I don't condone that and don't do that. And I always just felt like it turned me into a protector, because I see what my mom went through. Like, my mom ain't going to have to worry about a man ever doing that to her, or I'm going to be her protector growing up as a kid, and watch when I get older. I'm going to always protect my mother. You know what I'm saying? Because it was more like, I don't have a mother now, but that was the part. That's why I'm on the show for Mother's Day for my mom, and I'm on my day before, because she was a victim of domestic violence. She didn't get no help, and she didn't tell nobody. So my story with that is kind of personal, touching too. Also with that, I lost my mom too, though.
Wow, phenomenal, phenomenal. So with that being said, we'll jump into our couple of questions to kind of kick off the conversation. Again, this is a conversation, but we did have some questions that we wanted to hone in on. And for all of you that's just watching, new to our community, we're trying to get the education piece, finding out what the issues and struggles are, how do we prepare and get the resources to the community and fix these issues. So with that being said, the first question is, I said it earlier, in our community, what role does culture play in domestic violence? And I know, like, in our culture, there's a lot of rap music, a lot of things that we see on movies. How much impact is the culture plays into domestic violence? And I'll just leave everybody up, and we'll have the conversation. And everybody can just kind of chime in. But let's try to make sure that we wait to each other stop speaking, so we don't speak over each other. But anybody can start.
I always say this, John, and I know it to be certain. I stay in my lane, meaning I've never been nobody but Black. I've not ever dated outside of my race. So when I say, the African-American community, is not to minimize anyone else, because I have agape love for everyone. It's just I'm speaking on what I know to be true because I've lived it. In our culture, I feel like that we are coexisting with 400 years of trauma.
Yeah.
Right? And you bring that 400 years of trauma forward, and then, like Dewan said, he's 13 years old. He's a young man watching his mom get abused, feeling probably helpless, because what are you going to do at 13 years old, as far as a grown man? So then there's trauma. And then your mom accepting the abuse, that's trauma. But then without the conversation being had, we have this unrealistic expectation that we're going to solve the problem. So in the African American community, it's like, let's remove the stigma of therapy. Let's remove the stigma of mental health, because you cannot coexist with all that trauma and be operating at your 100% capacity. It's ridiculous to even think that.
Yes, I agree with Jamie. I think that that silence needs to be broken, and people need to start talking about these things, because there's no reason, for instance, a family. You may have people in your family that's being abused, and they won't even talk to the other family members. Now, granted, every family member is not going to be supportive, but sometimes there's at least one person in that family or one person close to the family that could advise you how to get out of those situations. The physical abuse is one thing, but there's also a lot of mental abuse. People play all these mind games, manipulation, narcissists. A lot of that exists, and we just don't talk about it. We sit there and we accept it for 10, 20, 30 years, and then it's handed off to the next generation, because everybody's not strong like Jamie mentally, or like me, that can get out of that. Most times it repeats, or they end up on drugs, or end up being a prostitute, or end up doing other things that they never get to fulfill whatever their true purpose was in life because of that.
Wow, that's phenomenal information. I have to concur with you all, because it is a big problem. We have to talk about it, and that trauma gets passed on to our young people. And we was just talking about it yesterday, how the young women of our community are now being affected by domestic violence, or teenagers in relationships. And how do we get that to change is a big part of it. But we have to start with these conversations, and I think this is a big part. Being able to, and then the resources. I know for me personally, if I experienced it, I've been in it. I've watched family members, and as a man, I had to reprogram myself thinking about what support and help looks like, right? Because something would happen to a relative, a female relative, and then I go to be the protector to get involved with it, and she goes back to him, right? And then that happens a couple of times, and then it's like, I don't want to get involved with it no more, but I'm leaving them there to be victims of violence, right? So it's like, how do we reprogram ourselves, and how do we educate the community to continue to persevere even if they go back? Because again, I think Jamie hit on it earlier, the control part and the intimidation and the fear holds sometimes these women in these situations. But as men and as other leaders of the community, how do we support them? Because I know sometimes I was frustrated. I don't want to get in domestic situations, right? Because I've had those experiences. As soon as I put myself on the line to come support a female or someone in my family, they go back, and I'm like, you put me in a situation, especially if me and his brother get into an altercation or different things, it can really come back and impact the community. But I had to change my mindset. We have to figure out a way to support. And I would love to hear from you all, like things and tools and techniques, because I know a lot of men in the community. I mean, I hear it all the time, like, hey, I don't want to get in people's relationship. We go over there, we get into it, we remove the person, they go back, and they just feel like it's a lost effort. But at the same time, that lost effort could be the loss of a life or something else. So, want to hear from you all on that.
You want me to go? Me first, it starts with men at home, the men in the community, certain ways they carry themselves, how they treat women. Because a lot of the kids growing up in the neighborhood, they watching other men, how they treat women, and they make it cool to call women bitches and hoes. Excuse my language, but these are the things that they see, that they end up developing a pattern on their own and start treating women like this because it's cool, because nobody's trying to break that cycle. Because if you do, this is not what a man's supposed to do, this is what a man's supposed to do, and all that type of thing. But then piggyback on what she said, we did have 400 years, but I call it post-traumatic slavery disorder, because none of us got fixed from them generational curses that we end up affected to this day when it comes to men and women relationship. And another thing is that a lot of times people don't understand what the definition of love really is. See, a lot of the time our belief of love is based on a word and not even mental state or coming from the heart. So when we meet somebody, we think we're in a relationship just based on this, and we don't even know nothing about this person. So at the end of the day, we have to change the terminology of what it is a loving relationship, because a lot of us don't understand what that really is. Yeah, I love you. Yeah, you love you back, but that's not love. And if you come from a community that we come from, we see violence and hate and all this, that's not love. So I got the same story as you, John. My cousin in Mississippi down south, she was getting abused by her brother, by her boyfriend over and over. Her brother came, so he finally came the third time. He ended up killing dude. He run away. He crashed him. So she lost two people because she stayed in a domestic violence relationship. See, it go both ways. Like, women have to leave that cycle too, and men have to get solutions to know how to break that cycle too. Because it's no man has the right to put his hands on a woman, but women got to find the strength too to walk away from that man and don't get caught up in that cycle when you think you in love. Because love is not gonna hurt you, it's not gonna abuse you, it's not gonna disregard, it's not gonna degrade you, it's not gonna mentally disturb you. That's not love. So women got to understand what the true meaning of love is, just as men got to understand the true meaning of being in love and be a protector and not abuse it. So,
and I'm gonna add to that, Dewan. Thank you, because it is. I mean, we at some point, we have to have self accountability, right? We have to be accountable for our decisions and our actions. But I want to share like 3 or 4 practical tips, right? Because that story that you just shared, that happened. So now this sister is coexisting with this loss, loss. So the first thing is empowerment, right? If you're supporting someone that's experiencing domestic violence, you all, that National Domestic Violence Hotline, there are trained advocates, trained people. It's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, totally confidential, totally free. They will walk that person through what to do, because the reality, you all, the statistics show a woman, we will leave at a minimum 7 times, right? We'll go back and forth. Statistics show that. So it's not that easy. And it makes me cringe when I hear people say, well, just leave. Well, it's not that easy. I was in the shelter with women that had children that could not leave because they were financially codependent. They could not leave because they was emotionally codependent. And it don't make that sister less than, it just makes it what's so. So empowerment, meaning advise, encourage them to reach out for help with a trained individual. Don't judge. We are so bad in our community. Girl, I wouldn't put, he'd have hot grits and this, that. That's not helping the person that's experiencing the violence. We have to remember that by the time the physical abuse has happened, the emotional and the conditioning has already happened, right? So like my therapist shared with me in the shelter, no one's going to walk up to you, Jamie, and 2 days after meeting you, punch you. That's not what happens. The conditioning starts and then the physical abuse starts. So non-judgment. When someone comes to you, don't say that. Say, I'm here for you. How can I assist? And that assistance could be simply a safety plan. A safety plan is something that the survivor or the victim, I'm not saying the word, the survivor, the person that's experiencing the abuse, they will take and put together a plan. So, Kadori, I'm going back home. My husband is abusing me, but here's my bag of clothes. It's got a copy of my passport, a few dollars, a change of clothes. So when I need to leave, can I leave this bag at your house so I can get out of harm's way until he calms down and I won't be killed? That's a safety plan. A safety plan meaning what I had to do. I didn't even realize it was a safety plan. That's why I'm committed to these kind of conversations, and the awareness and education is, okay, in my mind, I knew when he hit me and knocked my teeth loose that the first thing was to stop the blood from dripping on my shirt. That's that conditioning. But then my mind kicked in and I was like, oh, I need to get out of the house. So a safety plan meaning because it's a cycle, you all, it's a cycle of violence. It goes from, and this is, you can Google it. Anybody can visit my website, jamiewright.com. All this information is out there, but it's a cycle of violence. It starts the honeymoon stage, tension, explosion. And it's a cycle. I mean, it's a cycle, right? And so when you're in a situation, and you know your mate is, you know, the honeymoon phase is wearing off, the tension is mounting, and you know them, you know when they're about to explode, make sure that if you're having a conversation that might lead to him being physical, him or her being physical, don't be to the back of the house, right? Kind of work your way to the front of the house so that you can get out the house if you need to get out the house. Do not argue like in a bathroom in a place that you cannot get out of. Those are the kind of conversations that we need to have, because I'm telling you, as a victim of domestic violence, we have to empower these people. It was the empowerment. It wasn't that I'm so strong, y'all. I'm 2 decisions away from being out here on the streets, just like I forget life, right? So it wasn't that I was so strong. It was I was empowered. I was reminded of who I was, whom I was, and I was reminded of my strength that I had. So those 3 things, y'all. Those 3 things.
Wow, that was powerful. And then Kathleen Hicks, one of our viewers, put up a question, but I'm gonna let Kathy go ahead. And then if you guys, anybody want to jump in and talk about that question that she's asking as well.
Yes, I want to piggyback on Jamie. It's absolutely right. It's the decisions that make, you know, you do have some strength, but it's the decisions and the information. And then also your decision to not continue that way. Like, so you do have to kind of build these people up. Because what you have to understand is that a lot of women, they already were broken. They're coming from broken homes. They're coming into this relationship where this person showed them love. Like, for instance, with my first marriage, I got married young. This person was showing me love and attention, but then they would also, when they got upset, fight me. You know, they wouldn't fight every day, but when they got to a point that they wanted to express anger, but then you got the honeymoon phase again. They come back with flowers or loving, talking and stuff like that. So we had age working against us, being so young, had children young, back-to-back children, and then the violence and not enough money as well, because at that time my income was very low. So when I left that marriage, I actually for a period of time had to stay in a shelter for a few weeks when my children were really young, like toddlers. And this is long before I became a nurse. So you do have that mental impact, you know, and the reason I went to the shelter is because I felt like I couldn't go to my family. I felt like if I went to my family, it'd be like, well, you're married, go back to your husband. Because keep in mind, I experienced that domestic violence. I saw that. They weren't going to tell me to leave. Most people, especially when you're married, and I was married, they tell you, go back and work it out. It's very rare to find people that will tell you, you probably need to make a plan to get out of this. This has been happening so long. Most will tell you to go back to that. That's my experience from being a nurse and hearing these stories and stuff like that. So it is the mental conditioning, it's the not having the support, and it's the lack of information. So in my book that I wrote, it's really a therapy book because I talk about these things in my book, but I also tell women specifically, anybody can read it, men too, but I specifically address women because I've seen this in my profession. Women from all different cultures, income levels and everything, they go through this same stuff over and over again. And then they end up later on in life, 40, 50 years old, realizing that, hey, what if I just thrown my life away too? Then they'll get a divorce and get out of it then. But the educational piece is so important to get to these women and talk to them and give them those tools like Jamie was talking about so they can make a very educational and a smart decision, because they may not hear that from anybody in their family or their circle of friends, because all of them are going through the same stuff as well.
Wow, powerful, powerful stuff, and that's why we're having this conversation so the community can hear you all and give this advice. Because again, we'll be replaying this; it'll be on our YouTube. Because I know a lot of people are with Mother's Day, and you know some people will be affected by domestic violence today after Mother's Day, and it's just very important. That's why I really appreciate you know, both you and Dewan just being courageous and coming to speak up, because this is what it takes. We have to have courage to come and do it, and somebody has to lead. And I think that's why today's conversation is so powerful. And I just want to kind of go back to what you was talking about, and kind of Dewan kind of touched on it, and you kind of touched on it about the leaving part. And I think that's very important to like understand that part, because some of these women, they don't understand that how bad the domestic violence or the situation impacting them. But then it's the, like you said, the part of the motherhood. Well, my kids want to be around their dad. If I call the police now, I'm taking them away from the kids. So it's a lot of trauma that are sometimes women deal with when making these critical decisions, but it's not good for the kids. But I know a lot of times I've heard women say that, like, well, I don't want my kids want their father. So if I go away, then I'm taking the kids from the father. Or if I call the cops and they go to jail, then they think it's going to be me. And I think that's why, this conversation is important and how to navigate that, right? And then from you all perspective, I heard you talk about the shelter support there. We have nonprofits, and I want to give a shout out to Joffrey Simpson here in San Francisco. She's a big advocate. She's been fighting. They have victim services that they're doing. I know our district attorney came on our show talking about victim services and what does that look like and how to impact the community, because it is a big move when you're trying to remove these people from the situation. It has to be a strategic plan and set up right. But again, having these resources, and I mean, our employers, legislatively, we have to really start thinking about our victims and survivors, because hey, a person going through domestic violence might need more than 12 weeks off of work, might need more than 3 days off work. So how do we legislatively get our elected officials to also hear and say, hey, this is a struggle? What about a mother that's working and trying to keep her job and worried about being laid off, and a lot of times, because that is the financial part to keep them to be able to move. But again, sometimes women get in those financial situations where they can't move and they stuck there too. So as a community, we need to think about all this, our elected officials, people in these different departments that handle this type of stuff. I hope you all watching and get this information, because again, we have to be intentional. And when we put these plans together, how we're going to remove people and place them, it has to be a way that's with compassion, humility as well, because sometimes people just move people around, and that's why I'm just happy to hear you all talking about these shelters. What does it look like when you have kids? What does it look like if you don't have kids? How do we support each other and still make sure that the dignity of who we are is still being upheld, and that we're dealing with these survivors with humility and compassion. So I think that's just something that we got to continue to talk about and look at. But legislatively, we're going to have to make some change nationwide, because I hear it all the time, like, how do I move and do this, and I can't get time off of work, not only just for any violence. We having the same issues when it comes to gun violence. A lot of women are being affected when they lose their kids to violence or their loved one or husband. They can't even get enough time off of work to grieve and heal. And, a lot of it, they worried about losing their job. So I think this conversation is going to definitely keep moving forward. But there is a legislative part that we have to get in there nationally, because we have to protect our survivors and making sure that the ones who have jobs, that these employers also understand. We have to give them some time, and we have to support them as well. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. Dewan, you want to say anything, or we can go into the next?
Yeah, I seen somebody made a comment about the Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, that is true. Like, being a black man, like, sometimes you gotta understand that love is addiction too. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you could feel like you're so much in love with somebody that you need to help to break that cycle too. Because what we train as men to be the head of the household, but we also should be knowing that we protectors of our women too. And love doesn't abuse. Love doesn't hurt. Love doesn't hate. Love, that's not love. You know what I'm saying? That's abuse. So it starts with the mental phase too, and men too, because they're brought up around this to be tough and be this way and try to be dominant. Because, like I say, I go back to what she's saying about the slavery. We were dominant. We were getting dominated by other races as black people too. So at the end of the day, it's like that builds over to black men that we got to be so macho to the point where we're feeling bad about ourselves. We're not able to do this, so we're gonna take it out to the next thing that's close to us, because we done already messed her up in the head mentally and trained her to think that this is okay. So when she go to the next person, she don't understand what really love is. So when she gets somebody that really cares for her, she gonna push that person away, because that's not a definition of love that she's seen. Because at the end of the day, sometimes men take their anger out on women because it's something they feeling about themselves. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, and whether it's shame, whether we're not making enough money, or you're not doing this, or your girl or your wife or who's sleeping with others is making more than you, and we use that as an excuse to degrade them, which we only can know is physicality. That's the only thing we can do is put our hands on women, which is not fine. And I'm not condoning that. I don't do that. But these are some reasons that plague men too, and why they break into that cycle too, because it has a lot of what they go through in the community too. And the only thing they do is end up taking out on the one that's closest to them, which is inside the house. And now you got this trap in the house, and nobody's talking about it because you can't go to nobody. So it's the bigger system. Now it's occurring. It's occurring to somebody that lose their life. You got to go into jail or something happen, or it gets to the point where Now it's time for me to go. With the exit plans of doing this and doing this, because that is one of the taboos. I don't want my kids to be together. I'm with them because of baby. I mean, these are things that we have to break in the community cycle, because you can still co-parent. I don't have to sit up here and get beat up every day to let my kids see their father. We can co-parent, but it's like you have to put this information out there like them. Like, a family is not based on abuse. That's not a family. That's like you're being trapped inside of a cell, and you setting yourself up a fairy, which is going to roll down to your kids, and then your fathers. And we lose a lot of black fathers. So a lot of women are attracted to these men because they're missing them father figures too. And then you got these stepfathers that's coming in people's lives that's abusing these kids and doing this too. So it's like the cycle just continue. So we got to learn how to break that cycle, because at the end of the day, if you bring men in the house around your kids, you don't know what type of man this is. He's going to affect your daughter, your son, that's going to go out here and do this, because you don't know how to break the cycle. We all got to come. These strong women that's talking, they got to keep that from there so we can break them cycles, because this is not just something that happened overnight. This is bred in men, and now the new generation influencing them. And sometimes you could get to a point like you so much in love that you wouldn't accept all that because you don't love yourself. You know what I'm saying? So you sit there and accept all that because you feel like you ain't got nowhere else to go. I don't want to start over. I want to do this, but it's just a slap. It's just this. But no, it's leading up to more and more to either you going to kill him or she going to kill you. And you got to put some peoples in it. And that creates violence in the street. Now you got this young teenager that's when his mama get abused. Now he better go ahead and take it out on somebody else. That's going to create another victim. So it's just a repeated cycle that goes on and on, that we got to come and find the right narrative for men and for women to break this, because if we don't, the generation under us is going to be cursed. Because we're trying to break generational curses. This is what we're trying to do. And it's not going to happen overnight. And it starts with accepting, and it starts with a lot of men accepting it too. It's okay to love your woman and be loved back. It's okay if she got a better job than you. It's okay if she's the breadwinner. It's okay if you don't do this. It's okay. Shake these taboos that's going to define you as a man, and love your partner as your partner, as your queen, and you a king. But this is stuff that needs to be broken, because men think they supposed to be macho and tough and all that. Oh, you might got more money, but I'm gonna beat you up. You know what I'm saying? So with these type of things, so we need to break these things and understand that love is love, and love is not abuse. It's not control. It's not power. It's not none of that. That's not love. And we have to break these curses and these cycles so men and women can know how to coexist and love each other, man.
Wow, that's powerful. I'm glad you said that. That's really what it is, and it starts with conversations like this. But definitely, our young people are being impacted, and I know here in San Francisco, especially, we talked to the district attorney on our case during the COVID. We've seen a huge spike of domestic violence in our homes. So this is a real challenge, and just loving this conversation. I'm glad we're having it, and we're just going to keep pushing through as a community. And it starts with conversations like this, taking a leadership role. And I know we keep honing in about mental health, and I'm going to kind of tie this in a second, but I wanted to give Kathy and Jamie, if they wanted to jump in about the question that was put up from Kathleen or whatever. I didn't want to miss you all on that.
Yeah, Kathleen, thank you for tuning in. I don't know a lot about Stockholm syndrome, so it's not that I don't want to answer your question. I don't want to speak out of turn, because that's not my lane. But I do want to add to the conversation, John, the Violence Against Women Act. In terms of the legislation, the Violence Against Women Act has passed, and what the Violence Against Women Act is, it provides funding to help shelters and provides grants and things like that for awareness and education. So one of the practical things that we can do as a collective community, anything that has to do with gun violence, domestic violence, you all vote, sign the petitions. There was a guy standing outside of the post office the other day asking people to sign petitions. So doing things like that, like, the voting and the signing the petitions and writing your congressman or woman to say, hey, this is important. Please allocate the dollars, because, that it needs funding. Allocate the dollars so that we can get, the resources that we need. And in terms of Dewan, that whole the brothers, that's okay. So y'all, I don't speak a whole lot about being a domestic violence. Oh, woe is me, I'm a survivor. Listen, we were talking about this before we went live, the healing. I, as an African American woman that love my Black men, we need you all healed, whole, and complete. And so, thank you again for being on the show. Thank you for bringing that up, because there's intersection between domestic violence and income, right? So you think, let's try this on for thought. You got a Black man that was born with the odds stacked against him, right? And he lived into that, good, bad, or indifferent, felon. So he can't legally vote, or couldn't legally vote. So you take his taxes, right? But he don't have a say in it. Then he has a felony, or didn't have the support that he needed to say, hey, you can get a degree, you can, the sky's the limit. So he lives into that. And then, oh, no, thank you, Kathleen, thank you. And then somehow or another, he's miraculously supposed to be healed from this stuff. But that is for my situation, and not excusing it, it's just the what's so. The man that abused me, he hurt me because he was hurting, right? And so what I know to be certain is I got 3 months to go into a homeless shelter and get my mind right, meaning understand the root of why I was accepting of abuse, why I was 13 years old and pregnant. And I'm this whole, complete woman on my healing journey right now. There's no equivalent resources for men. And oh, by the way, y'all better not cry. You better not say you're not okay, because that somehow makes you less than of a man. But here it is. I'm 13 years old and pregnant. Oh, my lost feeling in my lip, will never get it back again. And I get, by God's grace, the support and this rallyingness and these resources. But what about the men? What about the Black men that are dealing with, coexisting with all this trauma? And like you say, not excusing it and not making it okay, just opening up the conversation so we can get to the root of it and get a resolution in what I've learned through my research is called transformative and restorative justice. So going back to the legislation piece, yes, we need the police and all that, the punitive side, but throwing a man in jail and expecting him to come out and not abuse the next person with no therapy, no nothing, just threw him in there. So restorative, transformative justice in the Violence Against Women Act is practical ways of how we can continue pushing pushing it forward and changing the narrative. Thank you, y'all. I feel like I'm rambling. Sorry. Thank you, Kathleen. Shout out to you, sis. Thank you.
Yes, and so the Stockholm syndrome. So first of all, I want to address mental health. That's so important. I know Jamie's got therapy. I've gotten therapy from coming out of an abusive relationship, and just for my mental wholeness, I'm a big advocate. All of the women who are in my immediate circle have all got mental health therapy, and they are for it. So on your healing journey, because we all got something, especially if you're Black, if nothing but from slavery. So you got it, and you need to go get the help you need and be honest with yourself, because that's the first step in changing things, is when you're honest with yourself about how you grew up. We had this shame and this silence about what happened in our house. Well, now you're an adult. You can make a decision to not carry that forward. Each one of us can make a decision and start seeking the help that we need to heal our wounds called childhood trauma. And then even more, like you said, from slavery, if you're Black in America. But the Stockholm syndrome, what Kathleen was talking about, is another mental thing where the victim ends up, wanting to support the person who was abusing them. So it's like a situation where this person is abusing you and they're wrong, and you'll stay in that situation because you're kind of, coddling to that person. You're almost in a state of denial. So you feel sorry for the abuser. So you can't get yourself out of that situation once you're in that mental thing. So a lot of people probably are in those situations, and some of those people unfortunately end up dead because you're in this delusional state that this is not happening to you, and it actually is happening to you. So there's a lot of different fronts, but I think a lot of it, one of the top could start with mental health therapy, not putting that stigma and shame on it anymore. Because I know when I was growing up, if anybody went anywhere, all I heard was, oh, they're crazy. But what I know to be true now is that you're crazy not to get help. If you know you came up in an abusive situation of any type man or woman, you do need to go talk to a professional so they can unpack all that stuff. It's like an onion. Peel back those layers, and then you can start building yourself up to be whole and complete. Because you got some men being abused too. So why are they staying in those situations being abused? So we just have to be honest with ourselves first about what has happened and what is happening.
Wow, that is a drop the mic moment right there. That is very powerful. I'm very blessed that you said that. Community, she is dropping gems, and I want to just thank Dewan because in the future I am trying to work with him and collaborate because what you all said about the man support groups, man mental health. I have a phenomenal brother named James Harrison over in Oakland, California. He's a mental health psychologist. He has these emotion cards, and I do want to build up a better man support group around mental health. But we have to make it cool, and I'm glad you talked about this because mental health. Sometimes just saying mental health is a problem. And I know we're trying to switch here in the Bay Area with mental wellness, but we have to make it cool. And I think we have to start invoking it in all of our institutions, especially in the workplace. I am a big advocate for mental health, and San Francisco's doing a great job. I had Peter Murphy and a bunch of mental health counselors last week. I was on a show, Real Talk, and there are some groups out there, but how do we mobilize them, help them grow, and make it cool and comfortable to have these conversations? And how do we bring it to our community, because in our community, and I know you all from different areas here in the Bay Area, especially in San Francisco, a lot of the complaints that we get, like, part of being in both sides of the conversation, everything that's going on, we get the emails and they want to talk about it. But our service providers, we have mental health services, but getting into the people in the communities who live in our low income areas is a challenge. Sometimes those families and members of the family trying to get to these services, they have to cross different, areas that sometimes are gang related and different options. So we're trying to really figure out how do we get those support. I was thinking about maybe having a mobile mental health truck that can pull up in the community, but we have to get it. I know a lot of our mental health professionals are afraid to go into some of our communities. So we got to get culturally appropriate people that can deal with our community, but we also need to provide them with the security and the things that they need to get in there to help our people as well. So this is a big fight. Mental health, domestic violence is something that we're going to hone in on. We have some conversations coming up too, about continued conversations about human trafficking. It's a lot all tied together, but we're going to keep fighting it. But again, I'm on the side of the area. As a country, we have to do more. Okay, I'll say it again. I feel, this is my personal opinion, mental health in America is big as the pandemic. As amount of money we put into COVID, we need to be putting that into our Black and brown communities and communities of all. We see these shootings, we see all of this stuff that's going on, and everybody just want to say mental health, mental health. How do we get the financial support? How do we do the things that impact our community? And we're coming up with ideas, and I'm gonna be working with some of these mental health professionals to come up with this and legislative. How do we do it? Because again, if the pandemic hit, our governor signed a petition to switch our colleges, to let more nurses in, and they dropped the requirements for people to get into to these nursing school because we needed support. So I'm saying, can we do this for mental health? Maybe we have some kids that's in the AA degree or 2 or 3 years in college, and we drop the requirements to get them to get them into our communities. I know pay is a big thing. We are talking about pay equity here for everything. It's a problem across the board. Our communities are hit with the pay equity and then the burnout. But again, it's the highest sought off degree for most of our people. And my question is still out there. If it's a large number of Black and brown people going after these degrees, why don't we have these services in our community? A lot of people are doing different jobs. I get it, because of the pay. So again, the pay equity goes to every, part of all this. And we have to find out. We have to take the real priorities that's affecting our community, because all I hear on all these calls, I'm on a lot of calls, and everybody's talking about mental health. And I'm like, how do we get the funding in there? How do we get the programs in place that's going to impact our young people in the community so that we can really do it? We got to start young now. This the trauma and the things that our community has dealt with, like you said, for 400 years plus. I mean, we just had a 5-year-old young man here in San Francisco that was racially profiled in San Francisco. The trauma he's going to have to deal with. How do we get the support? How do we get this money? And I know in San Francisco we're putting together, our supervisors putting together, and some of our leaders, a reparation committee. And this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, reparation. When we talk about reparation for Black America, we have to not only just think about the dollar impact, because a lot of people just worry about how much money we're going to get. I think this reparation conversation needs to be colorful across the board. Yes, money is a part of it because our ancestors, our family had slaves to build this country up, and that is a part. There is a monetary part that needs to go with it. But when we start talking about the overall reparations, what does this look like? You know, should it be the tax breaks? Should it be mental health? Should it be, you know, impacting our teachers with equitable pay? I mean, we have teachers here in San Francisco that can't even live in the city that they work in because gentrification has drove the cost of living outrageous, right? And if we want to keep saying we need Black and brown people that look like us, educating and teaching our kids, we also have to figure out a way to make sure that they're getting the pay and allowed to have the housing that they need to also further this conversation to impact our community. And I think that should be under that umbrella of reparations, because I think it's more than just money. And I know a lot of people, when they hear reparations, they're thinking about the financial part, but I think there's also a part that we need to really look in when we talk about mental health, financial literacy, you know, our education part, housing. I mean, because our people are being displaced disproportionately across all of the different things. And we just got to really have that real conversation. But I just want to throw that out there. Sorry to kind of take the conversation there, but I think it's important that we need to say it, because domestic violence and mental health runs right there hand in hand at those intersections. And I think we have to start those conversations as well.
Well, you know me, I say they both run hand in hand. First, we got to get more people that look like us in the community. We got to get more people that come together that really sincere about changes that's going to be made in the community. Because you have a lot of people, like you said, that do go for the money. But when you're trying to get a community healed, you have to have people that are really sincere about these things happening. Because, you know, we do have to survive. I don't even worry about the revenue. I don't even go in thinking about the money first. I go in thinking about the impact it's going to have on the young people and really changing the community and the stuff that I could do that's really going to help them. So when you take that out of the equation and bring more people in that's coming from their heart, you're going to start seeing more people that look like us in the community. Because that's what it is. Like I was just telling on the other panels, like, you teaching about this, but they looking at you like you're not one of them. So when you're not one of them, it's going to be hard for them to relate to that. So when you have somebody that's on the side of you or board with you or walking this path with you of all different steps of life, then you're going to be more relatable. But you can't be up there trying to talk about this and this, and you don't have a story to share, like how these two sisters got their story and I got mine. People aren't going to be able to relate to that. But when you try talking about the degrees and masters, you want to try to dictate what's going to be out of how we're going to change our community from a book, you're not going to be relatable. People want to see more people like them and want to see more stuff that's sincere from the heart. You know what I'm saying? Like really been through these situations, and they're going to chat. They're going to think they're going to know that school like me. I'm on here because I don't have a mother. My mom died, and I went into a mental state when my mom died. I was so depressed. It took me 1 year of therapy to be able to say my mom's name without crying. So that goes hand in hand with the domestic violence I've seen her go through. So for me, that's a major step in your life as a Black person, to when you realize that you know that's a feeling, go seek help, and it's cool. So if I got to get out here with from being in San Francisco name and all the street and make it think cool, it's nothing wrong with it. I'm proud. I got a therapist now. I'm not ashamed of it. Yeah, I'm depressed. You know what I'm saying? I got anxiety. You know what I'm saying? I got post-traumatic stress disorder because I was hurt. I didn't know what it was. Let me go talk to somebody. And I'm still the same person that's doing interviews and doing this, that same man. And I'm not scared to cry. I break down and cry all day. But you know, I got this therapist that make me cry. It's helping me get through another week. But don't think because your tears that you ain't that person that you was before you started crying. That don't make you less of a man. So we got to get out here with people with more testimony that look like them so they can relate to them and they can believe them and know that it's an issue or it's a problem. Because in order for a man to really abuse a woman and beat a woman, that is a mental problem. It's something in your background or something that happened that traumatized you in your life for you to sit up here and hold somebody hostage and do this to a woman that's like the color of your mama or whatever, for you to do that. The same way it is for a man to let you talk you into go get in the car and go in and kill somebody that you don't even know nothing what it's about, to throw your life to go to prison for the rest of your life. That is a mental problem. So these are things that people got to understand. A lot of root of this stuff starts mentally because we never had the treatment to get over our men. Look at the slaves. When they got freed, y'all say y'all free. What did they do? They went back to the plantation because you didn't give them no help and no plan and no treatment. But these veterans get out of jail, y'all want to say it's post-traumatic stress disorder and give them this money and do this. But what about the Black man who family was raped, robbed, stealing, and killed, and now in our community? We're doing the exact same thing that played us 400 years ago. Robbing, still committing, abusing, or women, because y'all and break down this, and y'all didn't give us a chance to break the cycle to get the help we needed when y'all released us on our own. So now we got to break all these chains, all these cycles. So we got to come together and let it know that it's cool to get help. It's cool to have these foundations. It's cool to walk in here and say that you got mental health. You're not crazy. That's a taboo. I'm not crazy. I'm smart. I'm very well educated. So I'm not nowhere near crazy. So at the end of the day, so just because I say I'm depressed, people don't want to say the D word. Oh, don't say that. I ain't depressed. We all got problems. But that's a taboo. Like, you got to make that, like, more people have to step up like these two sisters and how I'm getting on the front. They need to see people like us because that encourages them and that makes them want to get out and share their story. Because a lot of times we are prideful people as African-American people. We don't want to help. We don't want to help, and we don't want to look like it ain't cool. So if you make it look cool, then they want to. It's a trend that we was used to in all our life. That's what we got to do. That's my opinion on how we got to do as men and women, domestic violence or mental health or the community. We have to come together as one together, side by side, good, bad, whatever your history was, not judgmental, and come together and make this happen. And then you're going to have, because we could reach 1, 2, 3, you're doing your job. Because sometimes it's not going right. Ain't nobody else going to come in and fix us but us. So we got to come in and do it right.
That's man, powerful stuff. And that's what we're doing here. We're trying to unite our community. I know there's a big campaign across this country about solidarity. And this is what solidarity looks like, having these conversations, hear both sides of the conversation, breaking down these taboos, breaking down some of the stigma. It starts with conversation. This is our belief here. This is why we created it. There's a healing process that begins when you have conversations. And I think this is a great start. And DeJuan, you hitting it right on the head. And we got to do more. But yes, our community, our athletes, our entertainers, we need everyone to start speaking up about it, because you never know who the influence is, but it starts in our families. And typically in our Black and brown families, these conversations we don't want to have, and we have to start. And it's going to take Big Mama, it's going to take Auntie, it's going to take Mama, it's going to take some of the community leaders. And again, you know, all these allies and people that say they in support of Black Lives Matters and they in support, we have to have a real conversation about our employers. Okay, because sometimes it's mental health. We have to get it through the work. And I'm a big component of it. Like, our employers need to do a little bit more with mental health services through the job. You know, we have mandatory trainings that we have to go to for an hour a month or 2 hour a month. How do we make mental health part of it? You see all of the workplace shootings and things that happen in the workplace. And I think our employers, especially with these tax breaks that we give to these employers, and this is a conversation I'm pushing across to all of our elected officials, because we give these cities, these counties, these mayors, these tech companies, we give them big tax breaks to come into our communities, and they also have to be a part of, you know, making sure that they're doing their part to help impact the community as well, and not just come in and make money and get the profit of, hey, we're a big conglomerate and we're bringing this to your city, but we need to have those type of things put in there to help support community as well, building up our parks, infrastructure, and things of that nature, because that's a big problem, especially happening in the San Francisco Bay Area with all of this tech. You know, these companies come in and they don't really commit to building up the infrastructures of our parks, our schools, education, and these type of services. And some do, but it's still, the effort is not to the capacity of the tax breaks that they're getting. And we really got to hold our elected officials accountable and making sure that, yes, if we're going to get them these tax breaks, we have to put some real other things that's going to help make sure that they are a part of the community and making this change as well, because I think we all collectively have to deal with this. So that's very powerful stuff. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the next question. We're getting close here. We at the 3:13. We got about 40 minutes left. One of the other questions we had, and I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, is how does present day racism play into women reporting domestic violence? And I know that's a real, it goes around a lot of ways, but I want to also say this. I am not in support of the council culture, okay? And I think some of this that's going on in America with this council culture, we have to really confront it, because these type of conversations with domestic violence is part of that. If we keep allowing this council culture to happen, people are going to be silenced. We need people to come forward and speak and have conversations. And yes, we're not going to agree. That's why we have both sides of the conversation. It's sometimes your perspective, but it doesn't mean it's mine. But we have to have the conversation, because what's happening is a lot of women, a lot of people in our community are bringing up issues. You see it on social media, some of our entertainers. As soon as they say one thing that people don't like, oh, we counsel them. right? And now people are afraid to come speak up and tell their truth or speak their mind because they feel if I say something, my sponsorship is gone. Corporations don't want to deal with me. So I'm not really in favor of the cancel culture. But the question was, how does the current day racism play in the woman reporting domestic violence? Jamie or Kathy, whoever want to start, you guys can go ahead.
John for mayor. John for mayor. I love it, brother. You should run. I'm serious. You and Dewan. Okay, focus, Jamie. Seriously, I'm putting it in the universe. We're gonna manifest that thing today. I'm so grateful to be on this platform. So for me, racism played a significant role in me calling 911 and being afraid that. Well, let me back up. Okay, so the judge, I got a permanent protective order against the man that knocked my teeth loose, right? And the abuse hadn't just started in COVID. I'd been tolerating it for a long time. And so as a part of the permanent protective order, you all, the judge specifically said, because he would not let me come get my things. The judge specifically said in this black and white document that the sheriff was to escort me the entire time that I was getting my things, right? You think they did that? No. And so I really have to work through not holding resentment, because I know that if I looked a different way, right, that they probably would have helped me pack my stuff. And I had to argue with this police officer, not argue, but debate. I'm like, sir, it's right here in black and white. And let me take it a step further. And the sheriff was black. So he's been conditioned, right? That my life doesn't matter as much as Karen's. But it's having these hard, authentic conversations that now we're not going to hope it away. The narrative will shift, because I know that had I been a Caucasian woman, that they would have stayed. And I have it on video and everything. I called the DA's office. Of course, they didn't. I was frantic. I was like, I can't stay here by myself. Like, I can't. And I had movers, so I wasn't by myself. But this moving company, they're not equipped to, to go into domestic violence type situations. So that, in my personal experience, was and still, this has not been 20 years ago, y'all. This has been like right at a year ago. That, had I been a Caucasian woman, that sheriff, they probably would have had multiple sheriffs to stay there and make sure that I got my things safely and made it back to my safe place safe. So I don't know if that helps, but that's
very powerful. And then as community, what do we do as men in the community, men and women of the community, our community nonprofits, when this move and these type of things are happening, what do we do and how do we get involved to support? Because I think, Dewan said it earlier, we have to be the leaders of our change, and we have to protect our women in our community. And, I want to figure out what does that look like. And, earlier, I know you all haven't seen it, but I was talking about this last couple of weeks. We are here at both sides of the conversation, been looking for app developers, because that's something that I want to have in this app. If a woman is dealing with domestic violence, or, how do we support them? We can have an app or a text message that go out and say, hey, this is happening. We need some people over there. We got to start mobilizing people. And, I think it's really making me hone in more like how this app is going to function and work. Because again, like the young man who was racially profiled, we as community have to step up. And I'm talking to my black and brown community right now. We have to step up. Okay. Because again, it's going to take us to make the change. We can't wait for anybody to make the change. And it's a sad thing that our community didn't really know about it. And now a lot of community people are coming on behind the scenes because we finding out. And that's why we have to use this technology. And I know a lot of our elders in the community, and some people are not so tech friendly, but we have to start educating our community about technology, because we have to use these resources to mobilize our people, because I was very disappointed in our leadership. And I took accountability as a nonprofit, as a leader of the community, that I wasn't there to support this young man. And again, I apologize to him and his family, because when things like this happen in our community, it's a big problem. In our Black community, we got to do better. We are always in solidarity for everybody else and their issues. We show up and support them, but then something happened in our community and nobody shows up, and we got to stop that. We got to change it. And I take full accountability. I didn't know to the last minute what was going on. By that time, the news was already out there. Luckily, we had some great teachers at the school that end up getting the teachers and the kids to mobilize to go out to that location to protest about what took place with that young man. But as community, we have to do a better job. And a lot of it is technology, these technology gaps. And I'm going to help work to kind of close that gap with some of the stuff that I'm looking into doing. But we need an app, because when we have women in the community dealing with domestic violence, we need an app where they could click something, or we could click something and get people to mobilize to support them in need. And we can't just wait on the police. We have to do stuff on our own. So that's what I'm trying to create, an app for not only our events, things that's happening, when people are being pulled over by the police, different things. If you in the area, pull up, record, support each other. As Black and brown people, we're going to have to support each other, because we are faced with the same issues that impact our community. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And then I wanted to go ahead and just let Kathy go ahead and jump in.
Can I add something really quick, John?
Go ahead.
Transformative and restorative justice, brother, you might consider putting into your app like a place that men that have the power and control, like, okay, I feel like, the cycle of violence, I feel my tension. Well, I can reach out to John's app and this brother can talk me off the ledge. So providing that same support to the person that's causing the abuse, because we have to remember, hurt people. And like Dewan said, like, there's got to be something wrong. There's got to be areas that's, for somebody to hold somebody else hostage. So a support group in transformative justice talks about this, that when the man or the abuser gets to the point where they know they're about to explode, reaching out, especially to solid brothers like y'all, like, man, that ain't what you want to, that look like them, to talk them back. Food for thought. Sorry, Kadori.
Definitely. Go ahead, Kathy.
No problem. So I have a few points to make. First of all, Dewan, I have my therapist on standby. I'm always, like I said, me and Jamie and the circle we're in, we're all CEOs. We all have high degrees. We're 6-figure women headed to 7 figures. We talk about mental health therapy all the time. We push it day and night. And I love the fact that people like Taraji B. Henson and Charlamagne the God and other prominent Black people are pushing that a lot now, because it can't be said enough. We need mental health. We're dealing with stuff from slavery to now. Look at what's happening. We're constantly racial profile. So there's no Black person in America that doesn't need mental health. I'm sorry, I said it. So I have mine on standby. All right. And also the next thing I want to say, this is going to make people mad today, and it's Sunday. These churches are already set up in the Black community. They're on every other corner. I'm going to need the churches to get involved. The churches need to get involved in these communities, go door to door, get more involved. You've excluded so many people over the years that you're right on this corner and you're not doing anything for the community but collecting money. And I know people are going to get mad about that, but I don't care. I don't give a damn. I don't care about that kind of stuff. I'm on the other end in the ER. I see the backside of everything. I see people having strokes, heart attacks from stress. I see the abused person. I'm a level 1 trauma ER nurse. I've seen it all for 23 plus years. So I don't care about what people say anymore, because I know the truth. So those are the things that I like to see. And the last thing I want to say is that the initiative that they have now, from taking the defunding the police, I'm all for that, to switch them into more of have these numbers where people can call when they need a mental health person to talk those situations down, rather than you come in with the gun cocked and loaded as soon as you roll up on the scene. Like, seriously, they need to transform that whole thing. The police was made out of slavery as slave catchers. So it was founded on this crap. So it needs to just be debunked and rebuilt all the way up.
Wow, powerful. First of all, I just want to tell you, you don't have to apologize. Okay. I tell everybody that come on my show, I just want you to know one thing about both sides of the conversation, and we will not change. We are going to stay true and authentic to our community. We got to start speaking the truth. I call out these poverty pimps all day long. Our church leaders have, did a disservice to our community. Some of our national organizations have done a disservice to our community. NAACP, different organizations. I'm just going to keep it real. They could come debate. I always tell them, y'all have a welcome to come on our show and debate about it, but I'm telling you, the facts and the numbers show it. I've had a show on here with pastors who came and talked about some of the things that the churches have failed, and they acknowledged it. But I'm going to tell you what's the biggest problem. They don't want to get involved because a lot of them feel that membership comes with privileges. And we have to change that mental mindset in our churches, because these church pastors and these leaders of these churches feel if you're not a member of their church, you don't get those services. And again, I'm going to say it again. We have to have those conversations with them. Are you a church for the community? Or are you a business? And if you're going to run as a business, then there's different expectations. But again, we're not holding no punches here. I invite all the pastors to come on our show. I invite all the community leaders on our show that want to debate and argue about it. We can talk about it because the numbers show it. Okay. And I've had pastors on my show who came in here and said, John, you're right. A lot of these pastors feel like if you're not a member, they don't get services. And we got to stop that, because if they are a nonprofit, they're getting community taxes. If they're getting funding from taxpaying American citizens for whatever they're doing, it needs to go to the community. And a lot of our pastors are not doing it. They're making sure that their members get the support and not the community. And we got to change that. And I'm all for that. And it's not to bash. It's just the truth. And if they want to have a real conversation, I'll bring them all. I got a lot of them in San Francisco who don't like me. And I told them, you can come on my show. We can talk about it. I can show you the emails. I have the community that's telling me what's going on in their experiences. And I've had my own personal experience with the NAACP and different things. And they're not there for our community. And they only want to show up when the cameras are there for these big profile cases. And I call it to the lawyers too. I don't care. These lawyers are poverty pimping our community on tragedy, and we got to stop it. I'm looking at some of these pro bono costs, 40%, 45%. Why are you doing this to our families in a time of grief and need? And we got to talk about it, and we're going to keep talking about it. And I know a lot of people are attacking other people, and I'm a realist. I'm not going to get here and just go one side, because I know Tamia Mallory and the different people have been taking hit, and I got to educate the community a little bit on that as well, because a lot of these organizations who are supporting our community, it does cost money. And these people should have some of the money to pay, because they're giving up their jobs and they need places to live, and they putting their lives on the line as well. And I know Tamika Mallory been getting a lot of hit in the media about her houses she's been buying across the country. They don't understand sometimes in this business, when you're media, you're talking against a racist systemic system. Okay, and they come at you in different ways that our people sometimes don't understand. And yes, there's big money being donor, and our people just tend to just pick out our people and complain. But I know plenty of other people that don't look like us that take all the donations and money and use it for other things, and nobody never say anything. So I'm tired of that as well. But again, our sisters out there that's putting their life and their family on their name, being the poster child for what's going on, they deserve the right to be able to travel, buy homes, and get income off the community donations to rally these people and do this, because it takes a lot to mobilize. So I'm also going to have a conversation about that, because I'm tired of my sisters. We bash and jump on. These sisters are doing powerful things. Some of these brothers that's doing it, and we got to stop saying that they just taking money for themselves. We have to understand that they have a role too. And it costs to live. And sometimes they family get threats and things that we don't even know behind the scenes. And they need to be able to mobilize and move as well. So just wanted to put that out there. But thank you, Kathy, for saying it, because that is a big journey that I'm on here at both sides of the conversation. I am big on accountability, and I'm calling out these poverty pimps. And we're doing a lot of things. And they get nervous, because we're in the community and we know who they are. And we're going to keep holding them accountable. I got my brother Dewan, and we got some other community brothers. Okay, these nonprofits. And I'm going to call them out. Okay, they are pocket pimping our community, stealing the resources and lining their pockets, and it's going to stop. And we're going to keep pushing and talking about it, because again, the purpose of these situations is to help bless the community and move it forward. And we're going to call them out, and we're going to find them. And they running high, because we're coming from them, and a lot of them are starting to get nervous. But we will roll up with our cameras, and we will roll up with our community, because we know that we still have to deal with this in our community. We cannot be the oppressors oppressing each other, and that's what's happening in a lot of these situations. Our own Black folks in these nonprofits and in these leadership roles are oppressing our people, and we got to call them out. And I'm tired of it. And I'm glad you said that, because a lot of times what we're talking about today, especially with domestic violence, to create this change, We have to call out these people. We have to stop being silent. We got 35, 50 people know certain people in our community are doing things that's wrong, but everybody want to be like, but. We got to stop that but, and we got to call them out. And a lot of it is time for a transition in power, as they say. It is time for some of our elders of the community to start passing the torches to our young people and letting them lead and making sure that we are educating them and mobilizing them so that they can really push this movement forward. And a lot of elders in our community, I'm sorry to say it, I love you. I respect the work you've done over hundreds and hundreds of years. But it is time now for our young people to start stepping in, and I'm holding our leaders of the community accountable. It is time to start thinking about stepping down and molding some of our young people so that they can continue to push the narrative forward. So I just wanted to say that. I had to just, support you. It is okay. We are both sides of the conversation, and we will have these conversations, but we will keep it real. I'm not here for BS, and I tell people all the time, you want to come on my show, and you want to try to play these games with my people, I'm not going to let you have it. So if you feel like you can't keep it real, then don't come on my show, because we're not going to play this CNN, and we got to make the conversation corporate, and they got to fit this box. We ain't with that. I'm talking to my people. I'm trying to help my people. We're going to educate my people. And I'm not going to let people who go to school and get PhDs and figure out a way to come back and steal money from my people and think it's okay. I don't care. I don't care about your PhD. I don't care about how much money you make. If you are robbing and killing my community and you're stealing from my community, I'm going to call you out. And that's just what it is. And we'll have a conversation, and you can come on and debate it. But again, I'm not going to let these poverty pimps come in my community and continue to destroy our next generation of young people because of their greed and their selfishness. So I just wanted to put that out there. I'm sorry, I keep taking the conversation, but this is both sides of the conversation.
Well,
we got to keep it real.
I with you, and Jamie don't mean I look a certain way, but she know I curse in a heartbeat. That's why I just said I don't give a damn. If they come on anything with me with that nonsense, I will put them in their place. I don't care, because I care about the truth. And this is what's happened so many years. We sit here and we keep seeing these poverty pimp lawyers run from place to place, standing in front of this camera, collecting millions. Ain't nothing going back in the hood to help nobody in the hood, but they doing all that. I can't stand it. As soon as they show up, I just turn the TV off, because I'm like, I don't want to see you anymore. You're not doing. How is it the same group of people every time in front of camera anyway? You mean to tell me ain't no more lawyers out here that could take these cases? No, it's a setup, and it's totally against our people. Totally, 100%. I agree with you.
I mean, I look at it like that's what's embedded in us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they designed us and messed up my mind so much that we try to come up on our own while we steady talking about something, we bashing our own in our own ways. We don't even act like we see it. So when you get called on, you want to act like this is not what you're doing. But how the same two lawyers is always involved in every high profile case. But if you making all this money, why you ain't giving it back? You got a Black Lives Movement, but I can't even find one Black Lives headquarters. Like, you see all these things that's getting out here was a national thing, but what about the real stuff that's plaguing the community? What the help back? So at the end of the day, it is a lot of organization. That's why I stepped away the last time, because, and you churches, y'all do need to be called out, because at the end of the day, y'all are on every corner. But y'all need to be making a safe haven for domestic violence and mental health. If you getting public funds, then why you don't have counselors that's a part of your permission, or why you don't have services that's a part of this for the help if y'all on every corner? But y'all want to tell us about a liquor store on every corner, but you a church that's on every corner and you not helping. So at the end of the day, it's like it go both ways. So I don't understand either. Like, it's a lot of cases out there that need pro bono that go unseen. But even with the athletes, man, all you billionaires and millionaires, y'all got all this money and y'all ain't trying to put back into the needs of the black community because you living wealthy. If you got something, you're supposed to get back to your community. Y'all keeping this crab in the barrel effect going alive. Y'all not addressing this until y'all name come up in it, or y'all don't want to attach y'all name in this because this going to, y'all got a PR rep that's speaking for you. You're not speaking for yourself as an African-American man or woman, because I know you feel the pain. I know what's going on. I know what's eating you up not to say nothing because your publicist said you can't say it. But you need to start standing up. All these people need to be held accountable and start standing up for themselves and speak up for themselves, because we got to do this as one. It's like we talk about all the people that doing this for our community, but you get people in the community that's doing the same thing. We need to move these people out the way. If you're not going to be sincere and mean it, move to the side, because these are problems that need to be fixed. Our kids are dying. Women are getting the blues. Our mamas are dying. Our grandfathers are dying. Everybody's dying. Everybody has a mental health struggle. Everybody has a drug addiction. I mean, we need help for these people, and not just the money to come in here and be another pamphlet, another package, another folder with your information in it, and that's all you is another client. We don't need people like that. You need to really need some help and make this stuff accessible to the people that really need it. Because at the end of the day, people, we want somewhere to go that's going to feel like somebody cares and help them. But if you're not doing it because you bullshit BS in the numbers and making it look good, you can sense that. You can sense the sincerity in a person when you're dealing with them and they know you full of BS. So you get people out there, we're not coming from a good place, you need to step out the way. Because at the end of the day, our community has been playing for so many years. And it's not like you got $1 billion a minute, go donate that. Not to your charity of your choices, which might be a dog kennel or a boys girls club way over here. Go donate that stuff to programs like these two sisters got. Or John, donate that something with somebody really trying to make an impact. Don't go in here and be like, yeah, I'm such this crying eyes. Who is that? We don't know them people. What you gonna donate $2 million, $3 million to these people that we don't know? What about the neighborhood program? They ain't getting a penny, getting nothing. And these is black people just like you. So at the end of the day, they need to be held accountable. They need to be called down at the end of the day. That's only life and facts. So if you can't stand the heat, then move out the way. And let somebody else go come in that's going to do a right job and going to do it from the heart. Because at the end of the day, our community is plagued with a lot of issues that we can't get the help for. And we could. We can fund ourselves. Y'all got enough money out here between all these celebrities and all these to fund ourselves for anything we need in these communities. It don't take that much. I got to go get 150,000, 200,000 grab when you got 500 million. Come on, man! Like, come on. Let's not play these games with our lives. But that's what they're doing. They playing with our lives, man. They playing with our kids' lives. They playing with generations' lives. They playing with people's lives that are kids, grandkids down the line, and that's not selfish, and that's not sincere from your house when you see these things going on. Need to be called out, and I'm glad he called them out because I'm ready to call them out too. That I know a few of them, and when I get up in there, I'm gonna call you out. I'm gonna hold you accountable, and anything I can say once, I'm better say it twice. So it ain't gonna be no matter. I ain't gonna make up. It's just gonna be facts. Facts is facts.
The first question I want somebody to ask me: who the hell is over Black Lives Matter, and what are they doing for the Black community? Number one, number two questions. I'm tired of seeing it. Who's running this, and what the hell are they doing for the Black community today?
Hey, I've been asking that question all the time since we started this platform. I will always say it. I'm stand behind Black Lives Matter as a slogan, but as an organization, I don't support them. I look at the legislative moves that they are supporting, and it's not to benefit my people. So again, in the Black community as well, this education thing that we're talking about, we have to educate our community too on this legislative process, because I'm tired of people just, I'm a Democrat because of this. Both of these parties have destroyed our people. And we got to stop thinking because somebody says something racist in public that these people that's on the other side are passing bills that's just as racist. So we just got to educate our people. You know, yeah. I'm the type of person, if you're going to be racist, let's tell me to my face. But some people don't like that, and I understand that. So again, when it comes to these politics, we got to really start mobilizing and educating our community as well, because both these parties have damaged our communities. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in this arguing over who's the better slave master, and really both of them are hurting us as a community. And we got to do a better job. And it starts with education. And I'm hoping that's what we're going to be able to do here. We're dealing with a couple of organizations to kind of really educate locally and on a national level, because Black people tend to only show up for the national election for presidency. But when it comes to the local stuff, these issues about domestic violence and these other issues are really impacted at a local level. We got to make sure we know who our DAs are. We got to make sure these judges. I mean, there's a lot of things that we just got to, there's a lot of misinformation. And I'm sorry that people think that Black people know it all. And I know they prideful and don't want to say it, but I've experienced, and I know there's a big gap when it comes to this education. And that's why we created our education on Thursdays, to get different people from different backgrounds that have that knowledge and experience to come break it down and educate our community in a way that we can receive it and take that information. But this is a powerful conversation, because I know we're kind of going out of the realm, but it needs to be said. And we're going to continue to do our part because we have to say it. Miss Jamie, go ahead. I see you trying to jump in. Go ahead.
Yeah. Shout out to my cousin, Little Step 37. That's Christy. I love you. Tuning in from Oklahoma. Okay, so listen, y'all. I have to speak my piece. My current pastor, if I could just clone him, y'all, and my spiritual mother, shout out to you, Sister O, Pastor Ron. If I can just clone them and put them in our community, y'all. When I call the day that everything happened in my domestic violence situation in COVID, the first person I thought to call was our pastor. I mean, that's just my truth, right? And so when he seen my face on the Zoom, because mind you, it's COVID, so we had started using Zoom and all that, I thought he was going to say, let's pray, because we was going to pray it away, right? Because that's what we do as African American community. That's just the truth, right? If it was not for my pastor, you all, there is a very high chance that I would still be in my abusive situation right now. He is a therapist. I mean, he is licensed by God's grace, and there's no coincidence with that, right? It was all orchestrated for me for this such a time as this. If he would have said stay, I would have stayed. He told me, he's like, you're not safe. I love you too, cousin. You're not safe and you need to leave. So on the other side of that, you all, in my personal experience, my pastor was everything, and my church still is everything. Shout out to Mount Rose. So not all churches. There is, so if there's a church organization out there that needs a model church, like that comes from the heart and has the balance of the elders, the truth, and a pastor that is not by any means a poverty pimp. I love that. I wrote that down, John. Thank you. That just really wants to see, God's will be done in their lives. DM me on Facebook or Instagram. I'll hook you up, because my church is just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. That's all I got.
And I want to say there are some phenomenal churches out here, and I'm not going to sit here and try to make it like I'm bashing. There are some great churches that are doing something, but there's not as many, and we have to do better. And again, that comes with leadership. And my belief, and I always tell people, leadership is you are to be a leader. You have to demonstrate what is possible. And a lot of our leadership is failing. It's a lack of accountability. And, I live by these rules because I am the head of both sides of the conversation. I'm not going to just sit here and talk about the good things. I have to also be accountable when the bad things happen. But typically what happens in our leadership, especially in the churches and some of our organizations, everybody wants the praise and they show up for when things are right and when things are happening. But when it's the tough, difficult conversations or the stuff that need to be addressed, they want to hide. And that's not leadership. You got to be able to take the good with the bad. And I hope more and more people start stepping up and having these difficult conversations. And again, we have to also understand the Black and brown community. One of our biggest problems is we have too much history and not enough future. Our allies have too much future and not enough history. So we got to work on that as well. But we get tied into, yes, we had this horrible thing that happened with slavery and some of the horrible things that we've experienced all the way up to today. But as Black people, we are going to have to start thinking about the future, planning and preparing, and we got to get real. Everybody want to get into this traditional model. And I just want to call out, because I know a lot of pastors preach this traditional model. There's nothing traditional about being Black in America. We don't know what the tradition is because we didn't come here. We wasn't born here. We picked up a culture. So for me, today is we have to live in reality. What is going on today, and how do we use what's going on today to really educate and impact our future? Because I'm tired of hearing this. I'm a traditional this. I'm a traditional. I'm like, what is our tradition? We don't know. What is it? We're just picking up this Western civilization in America that we think is traditional, but this is not Black and brown tradition. So I just want to make sure that we are educating our young people and equipping them what we're dealing with today. And I just hope some of our church leaders and some of our organizational leaders really start getting out of this history model. And it's okay to teach and educate about history, because that's a big component. We have to know where we come from and where we're going. But I think we have a lot of it. I mean, and a lot of it haven't been educated to the community. But we got to move forward where we at today, because Black folks in America, we are getting left behind on a lot of things, because all we honing in on is what was done to us and how things used to be. And we got to move forward. And I'm going to help us do that. And I'm going to continue to work with leaders like Jamie and Kathy and different people to bring them here. I'm trying to get all of this information so that we could put it together. We could be a model. A lot of things happen here on the West and it moves out to the East. I want to be there. I want to connect. And it's not about no self gratification. I just hear what's going on and I'm trying to help figure out how to fix it. I listen to the community. And I think that's another thing with leadership. We have to listen to the people. We have to listen. Too many times we get stuck on this is how it have to be our way. We have to listen to our community and come up with these great ideas, because the real research and study is done by the people who are living it every day. And how do we get our people that's up here, meet the people down here? That's another conversation. But a lot of time we get here and we try to forget about the people here, and fixing this domestic violence and fixing our relationship issues and fixing some of these things that are impacting our community. We have to work together. We have to pull our brothers up. We have to, I hear a lot of them say, I don't want to help pull somebody. They should be there. We have to we have to learn these gaps and we got to help each other. If we really want to have what we have in our vision of what it looks like, it's going to take a little bit of compromise for each, male and women, female and male of our communities, black and brown, working together. It starts with education. It starts with mental health. It starts with being open and having these conversations, and we're getting there. So with that being said, I don't want to cut anybody off, but we got about 15 minutes left. Before the end of this show, I want to ask this last question, and then we'll jump into wherever it goes. And then I want to give everybody a minute to close out with something as we close out today's show. But just want to tell everybody this has been a phenomenal show. I am learning so much. And that's why I tell people, because of this platform, I don't know it all. I'm learning so much every day. And all I want to do is be able to take this information in. I do a lot of mentoring. We got brothers like Dewan here. And I want to collaborate with these organizations and take this information so that we can impact our young people, because I deal with a lot of young people. I'm in our San Francisco Juvenile Hall, and this information and these conversations help provide me so that I can be a better leader and make sure that I am giving information to our young people. And this conversation with domestic violence is another part of it, and really educating our young women in the community, our young men, when we're talking to them, are they locked up, and they have that clear state of mind to really talk about the domestic violence, the mental health. We always do, but I think I'm going to hone in a little bit more because of this conversation. I think that's why this Sunday conversation is so powerful, because it gives us the opportunity on Sunday to get ready for the next week. It gives our elected officials, some of our department heads, an opportunity to kind of hear what's going on so that they can make better decisions from a leadership standpoint to help guide our community as well. So I just want to thank you all before I go on to the last question. And I think we kind of hit on it a little bit, but the last question was, with the economic disparities that women face, does that impact them leaving domestic violence? And I know we hit on it a little bit earlier, but just want to make sure that we answer all the questions that our community are asking from our panelists. So what are the economic disparities that women face, and does that impact them leaving the domestic violence situation? So Jamie or Kathy, you two can start.
That single-handedly it does. The one of the fundamental difference between me and some of the women at the shelter is that I had a consistent income. So I was still working when I was at the shelter. And so in terms of the economic piece, yes, and that's one of the reasons why I was able to leave and stay away, because I do have the ability to provide for myself. And that goes back to like what we were talking about earlier. Some women stay because they financially cannot, stand on their own 2 feet. And one of the things that I'll share as a part of my workshops is just ideas. Like, everybody is not going to want to go to college, right? And want to go get a degree. And we were talking about this the other day in the clubhouse. What happened to the good old cosmetology school? Like, y'all, like when I started out, I started out at a typing class. And when I realized I wanted to go to college, I took every 0 level class they had before I was able to get to my master's. But anyway, long story short, opening up the conversation about trades, the plumbers, the HVAC folks, the beauticians or hairstylists, the typists, the phlebotomists, ways that you don't have to acquire a whole bunch of student loans and have to spend a whole lot of time, but yet you can go to a training and get a certificate in a few weeks and get and open up yourself to a career so that you can stand on your own 2 feet. And that goes both ways, not even for domestic violence survivors, but back to the person that's causing the abuse. I've never been a man, but you cannot tell me a brother thinks highly of himself if he doesn't have the means to provide for his family or for the person that he loves. So again, like my first ex-husband, he fed us very well. He went to HVAC school. He didn't have a college degree, but and he felt good about himself because he was able to provide for his family. So yes, there is that economic imbalance that we have the conversations about, hey, this is how we can close the gap, that we can, eliminate or eradicate that.
Yes, phenomenal. Thank you for saying that. Go ahead, Miss Kathy.
Yeah, I think that it does, women not having that income does keep them in the situation a lot, because my last marriage, I had the income, but there was a period of time where I was only working 1 day a week and he was paying most of the bills. And that's the time that he ended up abandoning the family. But I was able to get a travel assignment and get back on my feet quickly. But that's because I already was a nurse and I already had that. A lot of women don't have that. They may go into a marriage and not work for several years because they're raising their kids, so they don't have that experience, but may have the degree, or they may not have ever had a degree or a trade. But I'm with Jamie, and part of what I do in my charity, I help homeless people and people who are in need, and I've pretty much been funding this out of my pocket since 2017. So when these larger organizations don't come in and do their part, it makes me disgusted because I don't get the funding. I'm helping people out of my pocket and other people that I know that give me to help people in need, or homeless people, or a mom who needs diapers for her kids and stuff. So it is a big thing. But one of the things I do want to do is, like Jamie touched on, I do want to be able to have a fund that I can help women go to become like a medical assistant, 6 months, things like that, other trade degrees where they can make good money. I know somebody in every trade that's at a millionaire level. I know some nail technicians that have done so well, they're doing the superstars nails, making all kind of money. I know some beauticians who are at that level making money. So it's all those trades. You can do what you want to do with it. Once you become very good and you broaden your clientele to a higher income, you can take a 3 or 6 month trade and actually go into the millions of dollars depending on how you spend your business.
Jawad, you want to jump in there?
Let me say, well, my situation, my mom's domestic violence was kind of different because we had like 2 houses. So when she got to the situation, she stayed. We ran to another house. So I don't think the financial part really kept her there. I think it was more like the love and the emotion and attachment and all that. So, like I was really spoiled. We were spoiled about, man. My mom had money before the man she messed with. So and that part, which is new to me because I don't think my mom stayed because of financial, but I understand that part because a lot of women do feel trapped and they feel like they not able. And this is kind of like what I tell men too, when you live with women and you do this, like, that's not yours. Be able to learn how to get your own. Be able to be there to be able to know how to go get a job, get an application, do this. This is just temporarily. So if you do get into a situation, you're able to get out there and get on your own feet. Because at the end of the day, that's the problem, is that people depend on people too much that cause you to be in a situation that you don't want to be. So if you learn how to be self-dependent, I think I can say on this Mother Day is that's one thing my mom taught me. And I think mentally I wasn't prepared, but for us, like, financially doing the things I had to do to survive without my mom, she had already prepared me for that, for the way that she raised me and took care of me and the things to do and not to do. So you have to be prepared as a woman or a man, whatever relationship you're in, to know how to be able to self-sufficient, know how to be able to create your own lane with a person and without a person, because everything is not guaranteed. And sometimes we get in these situations when we think this is going to be forever, and it might not be. And then you trap, and then you're just sitting around lost, don't know what to do because you were so codependent. So codependent and love, them are addictions too. We could be so codependent that we're addicted but we also to the point where it's like, this person leaving, we ain't gonna know what to do. So you have to take everything as a grain of salt and always try to better yourself in any situation you're in. And it's like you learn how to just be more self-sufficient and do things with somebody or without them. It's better if you got a team, you got a love relationship, don't get me wrong, but you still also know how to do stuff if it just came down to you surviving on your own too. So, it's kind of different. And like I said, I appreciate both of these strong Black women on. It was very helpful. I got a lot of insight. And I do think we need more trades. And I do think we need more situations in our community because, like how you were saying earlier, John, like our felonies block African-American men. Most women, all they think of nursing and dentistry school. They take them schools and all these people, all this money for these back payments, for these grants. So that they're not making them available. So they're limiting our careers that we can choose. So we do have a program like she was talking about. It would be easier because you look at the Asians, you look at the Black and brown, you look at these people, they do the things that we feel like ashamed. You know what I'm saying? They come together as a unit and American community. They do these things to come together to build each other up. They get stores and let this family live here for a year and then rotate it so they could keep creating generational wealth. We wasn't trained to be like that. We wasn't trained to have wills and trust funds for our kids. We had to do that, so we had to break that generational curse because by the time Black kids are losing their lives and losing their fathers, families are breaking up and losing grandmamas, and we burying each other without no fun. You gotta do car washes because our mind is messed up that we're not even setting our own self up to be in a better position for the next person. So we need more programs like that in the community. You know what I'm saying? So I piggyback on what she says. Exactly right.
Man, phenomenal. That, I mean, very important. And that's why I always like, college preps motto. Some kids is gonna go to college, and a lot of our kids not. And we got to really promote vocational and training and entrepreneurship. And I think with this program that we're doing with our Educational Thursdays, is really getting this information to our young people in the community. Understand that there are opportunities. I tell people I do heating and air conditioning. That's my background. I work in a hospital. Phenomenal career, man. Put me through homes, my kid going to college, my grandbaby. There is ways that you can make over six figures in different industries, and we got to educate our young people about that as well. Because again, some of our young people are just not cut out for college, and as community, we still have to uplift and support them. We can't shun them and look down on them because they didn't have a degree. And I know sometimes we deal with that, and I'm trying to really work on that in our community because sometimes our people who go to college, they weaponize their college experience to people who haven't, and we got to stop that. It's not about the paperwork. It's not about how much money you make. We got to start getting back to love, character, and integrity. And I'm hoping that this conversation helped everybody today as we start closing out. We got about 8 minutes left to close out today. But I think mental health is a big part of it. We got to make it cool, educating our community. We had a lot of powerful gems that was dropped today that I think is really going to help our community moving forward. And I know we have some people here locally, Joffrey, different people that's going to continue to push this conversation next week and beyond. And we want to get behind them and support them as well. But it takes a village in all of this. And we all have to do our part to uplift our community. And I just thank you all for coming on today. I know it's Mother's Day, and I know this is a challenging time sometimes to do this on a Sunday because people have their church obligations and different things going on. But it was very powerful conversation that needed to happen, and we're going to continue this conversation. This is not going to be the last conversation on this topic. This is building us up as we get closer to Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we're going to keep these conversations going so that we can impact our community because we know since this pandemic and coming out of this pandemic, this domestic violence thing is just getting out of hand. And we got to really make sure that our families are protected, our young people are protected, and we know what's going on and we know how to get out of these situations and just have the community support. So I'm working on this app. And then for Kathy, just hearing you, I feel the same way as you. Everything we do here is out of our pocket. We don't have funding. But again, for our allies out there and different people in the community and different charities, here's an opportunity. Because one thing that I am going to call out is a lot of these organizations, a lot of these large institutions that have the funding, when things happen, they want to scream, they support the Black community in solidarity. And here's an opportunity for everybody. Reach out to Kathy. Get behind her movement and support her and help build up her thing as she's impacting the community. I think that's what we have to do in some of our large organizations. They have to start helping out because sometimes these organizations get too big and they really not having an impact. And it's these boots on the ground people like Kathy that's in the streets, in the community, really impacting the community. And how do we get our larger organizations that's getting all the large funding to really impact her movement as well as Jamie movement, as well as the Dewan movement? When you have these people in the community that's doing the work, we got to make sure that we get resources to help lift them because that is a lot of times what happens in our community. Everybody talks about the nonprofit that fails. Everybody talk about the business that goes away, but nobody's having a conversation on how do we help build these these nonprofits, how do we help them build capacity and be sustainable? Because in the Black and brown community, these services, these issues that we're dealing with, we need it to be sustainable, and we need some of our larger organizations to do a better job to help the smaller organizations build capacity and be sustainable as they impact our communities as well. So just looking forward to continue to doing that and looking to collaborate. In the blessing of the pandemic, one thing that we found out is technology can unite us across this country, and we can collaborate and do things through Zoom and things of that nature to impact our communities as well. So there's no geographic holds up. People in the East Coast, West Coast, we've had people from Philadelphia, Atlanta, Florida come on our show. And again, the power of technology. I know sometimes this whole pandemic, we've been into it, but we need this technology also to move us forward with these different movements and powerful stuff today. I think, okay, so somebody put something for YouTube in here. I'll get it up there on the screen. But with that being said, we're going to close out. You guys been here all day. I want you to get back out to your families and do the things that you all have to do. So with that being said, I'm going to let everybody close out. We'll start with Jamie. I just want you to give some last words or whatever you want to give to the community and go ahead as we close out.
Okay. John, brother, Dewan, I absolutely honor you all with my entire heart. anything I can ever do to be of service to help, like you said, push this conversation forward and change the narrative. No, I'm a pigeon bird, phone call, text message away. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you're watching and you find yourself in a domestic violence situation, or you're supporting someone that's in a domestic violence situation, please, you all reach out to the national hotline, domestic violence hotline. Reach out to trained individuals. They are there. They are available. It's free. It's confidential, 24/7. Thank you all again. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Sunday.
All right, thank you.
And thank you for this platform, John. I really enjoyed your conversation, as well as Dewan, and of course, my dear friend, Jamie. Thank you as well. Ladies out here, I have a book that's an inspirational book about my life to teach you how to love yourself. You can get an autographed copy on my website at kadori.net, or you can go to amazon.com. Looks like this. and I hope you all have a happy Mother's Day. Thank y'all.
So Miss Kathy, I want you to when we end, if you have a few seconds to hang on, because one, I want to buy your book, because here at Both Sides of Conversation, we always support our Black and Brown businesses.
I just seen them right there to go order it too.
Yeah. And also, I want to bring you all back as hidden gems on our show, because some people missed it, but I think it's an opportunity for you. I know, Jamie, you have a book coming up, and Miss Kathy, I want to definitely support you. That's what we do here. I'm actually, where's my book at? I just supported our sister Lettucey. I just got my book. I was waiting to have some, so I've been reading. I got a bunch of books up here that I'm finishing up for people. Everybody on our show here at Both Sides of the Conversation, we do our best to support them, buy things for them, and sometimes with books and stuff, we usually buy 10 or 12 so that we could give them out to one of our events or to some of our parents to help impact them. So I want to invite you back for that as well. But thank you. But please put the information in the chat on Amazon so I can go ahead and order and support you, because that's what it's all about. We have to uplift and support each other in our community, and it starts with the economical power that we need, and it starts with us. We have to do it. So definitely want to get that information and purchase that book and get it out there.
Thank you, John. And I support you all as well. Jamie knows that's how we roll. We support people. That's what we do. Yep.
That's right. Brother Dewan, go ahead and get a community close.
Oh, man, I just want to say thank you for having me on the panel with two strong Black African men and women. I appreciate that. Happy Mother's Day once again. This was a blessing for me today. Like today, really is not a good day for me because I don't have a mom. So I appreciate John for sure for having this platform, me having me on there with some strong women figures. So that was a blessing, put a smile actually on my time for the first time on a Mother's Day. So I'm blessed to be in this situation, and I appreciate that, man. I would definitely reach out to y'all on y'all websites or your emails, and we just look forward to moving John, like I say, and we can just get this network and keep it moving, man. So that's all I gotta say.
Definitely, man. We appreciate you all. Thank you all for tuning in, watching today. This was a phenomenal conversation, a conversation that was needed to have. A lot of gems, a lot of information came out of this conversation. I feel so much better because now I can move and mobilize and make sure that the importance of this conversation is hit with our young people and with community. And we're going to continue to do our job to heighten this awareness about domestic violence, because we don't want any of our family members having to suffer from another day of domestic violence. And we want to break this silence. And if you out there, you know anyone who may be dealing with domestic violence, we put the information up there again. Please get them support. Please don't just turn your back. Fellas in the community, support our sisters. We have to be the ones to protect our queens. They ask for security all the time. Security looks like being there for these type of issues and needs, and we're going to do our best to help support our women in the community and our young people in the community. We want this domestic violence to stop. This mental health thing is serious. We're going to continue to promote and push mental health awareness, and we're going to make it cool so that we get in our schools and we get in our community, so that everybody is okay to have a conversation. As Dewan say, it's not a bad thing to have the word depression being used in our community. We want to break that. We need the help. We need the support, and it just takes the courage to do it and have these resilient sisters to come on and be vulnerable. And I think that's something that we really have to pick up in our community. It's okay to be vulnerable, and instead of tearing each other down, we have to support, wrap our arms around, and show love to uplift and build our sisters and our brothers of the community, because it's very important. Black love is very important. We need to show the love and respect and stop all this gender war. And how do we help fix the problem to build up a better future for our community? So we're going to keep these conversations coming. Thank you all for coming on. this Tuesday, we will have another segment of our Hidden Gem segment. As I just told Kathy them earlier, everyone that's watching, or maybe you new watching, every Tuesday, we have a segment called Hidden Gems where we highlight Black and brown businesses. We have them come on to promote their business or their products or what they're doing so that our Black and brown community has an opportunity to patronize their business to help support them and uplift them, because we know we have been hit the hardest when it comes to layoff and employment during this pandemic. And we want to make sure that our small business and our Black and brown businesses get the support from community to help build them back up, because we know typically those businesses will hire people that look like us and give them an opportunity as well. And as well on that segment, it's a segment that we highlight our community leaders and people that are doing things positive to impact our community and give them their roses while they live in. Too many times in our community, we wait till people are dead to talk about all the wonderful things that they're doing. So that segment is also to highlight our teachers, our policemen, our firemen, our leaders of the community, and let them know that we respect the work that they do and we want to show homage and love to them and give them their flowers while they live it. That's what that segment is about. And then on Thursday, we'll have another educational Thursday. We have some phenomenal sisters coming on to talk about dance and how dance inspired the movement of mental health and shifting in our community and the power of meditation and things of that nature. So we'll continue to just keep bringing different aspects of this educational Thursday. We're looking for some nutritionists. We're looking for some HR people to come on to teach our people about resume writing and things of that nature as we come out of this pandemic, as our people are transitioning, as a lot of businesses have closed and a lot of changes have had in the corporate America to get our people engaged and ready to go out and find jobs. That's what our educational Thursday segment about. And then next Sunday, we'll have another phenomenal Sunday conversation with community. Looking forward to getting that information out. Please go to our YouTube, like and subscribe, and turn the alert notification on, because moving forward, all of our live shows, Hidden Gems, Educational Thursday, Sunday will only be aired on YouTube. So if you want to be a part of that, please go to our YouTube, like and subscribe. And then all of our other social medias, we will still have those up and functioning with flyers and information that's going on for community events and things that we'll be a part of, and how you could get involved with both sides of the conversation in the community. Those will still be up at all of our social media handles at both sides of the conversation. So with that being said, thank you all for tuning in. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there. We love you. We support you. And to our dads, and I want to say this because there are a large amount of dads who also are single parents doing their best to raise kids on their own. I want to give them a shout out. Yeah, I want to give them a shout out as well and just say thank you. And to the ones who don't have kids but have been mothers to other people, children in the community, we have a lot of phenomenal community leaders that don't have kids that are impacting our youth every day. We want to give you a shout out as well, and love and support for all the work you do. Thank you all for tuning in. It was nice conversation. It was beautiful. I hope you got something out of it, and we're looking forward to more conversations like this in the future. Have a blessed day, everyone. Mothers, enjoy. Have a great day, and we'll talk.
All right. All right.